Hey everyone, I've been using Stability Matrix and Webui Forge for a while now on my computer to generate images. The thing is, for projects that I have where I want to generate thumbnails automatically, I want to be able to interact with it with codes and LLMs. I've struggled a lot to get it working, so in order to avoid you the 20 plus hours of inspection, I'm going to show you how it works in 3 points. But if you don't know me, hello, my name is Maël Simon. I'm a software engineer and currently at my day job, I'm integrating AI for the enterprise. My goal is to help developers bring the ideas to life fast using AI and automating them so that they can get back their time. Our goal for this video is to be able to have a function that can generate images from a prompt and get the images back. And for that, we need the API. I didn't use this before, but when you are on the localhost, if you go on the URL and do /docs at the end, it's going to show you all the API endpoints that are available. But if you do it like so, you're going to see that we are missing some endpoints, which are the SDIPA text-to-images, etc., which are the ones we want to call. Also, huge shout out to Killbog2 who made this API guide. It was for Automatic 11.11, but it helped me a lot. So the thing is, we need to activate the API. To do that, if you go into Stability Matrix, here you can see that it's said launching WebUI with arguments. To activate the API in Stability Matrix, what you have to do is here in Packages, you click on this icon, the options. And if you scroll way down here, you got extra launch arguments and you can say --API. You save and then you can launch again. Here you're going to see that it says launching WebUI with arguments and there is the --API, which means that you are going to be able to get the API working. So now if we get back to the /docs, we can see that our endpoints are visible. But now to be able to make the request, we need the payload. And the payload is quite huge with a lot of different parameters and options. You can't specify only the one you want and not set the others. You need to specify all the other, which is quite bothering. And the example value, here you got string, etc. and you don't necessarily know what to put in that. So to solve these options, and again, thank you a lot to Killbog2, he put here an API payload display. It's an extension that converts WebUI image generation calls to JSON for API. And that's exactly what we want. To install that, you have to click on the link. It's going to open the GitHub. You copy the URL and you get back to Step Diffusion. Here in extensions, you go to install from URL. You paste the URL for the extension Git repository. Install. I've already done that. And then it's going to be shown here. You may have to click on apply and quit and then completely restart Webui Forge to get it working, but do it once and then it's done forever. And now when we get back to Step Diffusion here, I can input my prompts and generate the image. The image is quite creepy, but I don't care. Now I have the API payload here. You may have to click on the extend button before clicking on generate. Otherwise, the API payload might be empty. But now we have all the payload we use to generate this image. And we're going to use that in our function there. So basically what I've done is I pasted all this inside a payload variable. And I'm just going to modify the difference variable that I want to modify. So for example, the prompt steps, width, height, etc. Now that we have our payload, we can make the request. I set a big API timeout about 10 minutes. So like that, it has the time to generate and get back the response. Otherwise, the request will just crash because it made all the attempt and didn't get a response in the expected time. So you need to increase the timeout to make it work. But now that we can make an API call that works, you can process it however you want. In his guide, Kilvok2 also made an example script where he shows you how to make the call and get the image back using that call. Here we can also see how to decode and save the image. I may want to generate multiple images at the same time, and I want to save them in a directory, so the code here is for that. We create a timestamp, we get the image directory, and for each image that we have in the images sections of the response, we are going to decode it because it's base 64 encoded, and we are going to save it inside its file. And basically, that's all we need to do. And to finish, I return a list of all the file paths. So right now, we have stability matrix Webui Forge that's working. We can use code NLL, we can use some code to interact with it, and we get back a list of paths where the images are saved. So it's working like we expect. But now we want to automatically launch Forge to be able to generate images without having to click and launch the interface each time manually. And that's why we have a launch script. And to know how to launch a script, if you go there into the stability matrix, you can see there is a line here, which is launching WebUI with arguments, kudamalloc, --API, and the gradual allowed path, which means that the stability matrix is launching a script on its own, and we can do the same. To find the scripts that you have to launch, you go back to packages. Here, the three dots. You can go on Open in Explorer, and here you are. At the end, you've got the webui.bat, .py.sh, and with the webui-user configuration files. All this allow you to launch the Webui Forge by double-clicking on this script. But we don't want to double-click. We want to launch this programmatically. So what I thought in the first place was I will just need to go on my executable file, show more options, properties, and copy the location, and then execute this file with the right parameters, and it's going to work. But it wasn't as simple. When I was in my project directory and I wanted to launch this using only the arguments, it used the virtual environment from my project, not from the Webui Forge. Which is a problem because I've got an environment that's already working. It has been installed automatically for me. I don't want to have to reinstall all this inside my project, and it's not relevant to my project. So to make it work, I had to do that. I cd inside the right directory. I have to set the Python path to the virtual environment of my package. And only then I can call the script with all the arguments. The trick here was to really set the Python path so it's going to use the one in the virtual environment. Otherwise, it's going to use the Python path of the virtual environment of the project you are in, not the Webui one. And that's it. So now you've got a script to be able to launch the Webui Forge to do all the inference programmatically. And you've got yourself a function that got all the payload and can make the request and get the image back. See you in another video. Bye.